Ethan Reynolds thought he had already survived the worst heartbreak life could offer. Years ago, as a young husband, he had built his world around Melissa, the woman he believed would share his old age. But all of that crumbled the night she walked out. She met a soldier on leave, fell into a whirlwind romance, and abandoned Ethan and their 3-year-old son, Caleb, without even a fight. One evening she was setting the table, laughing at his stories, and by the next morning she was gone, leaving behind only a note. That betrayal left Ethan hollow. He promised himself he would never hand his heart over again. Instead, he buried himself in raising Caleb and running the children's learning center he'd founded after quitting corporate life. Love, to him, was a book that had closed forever, but fate has its own timing. On a chilly spring afternoon, Ethan took 12-year-old Caleb out for ice cream. In the park, he noticed a young woman sitting alone on a bench, her shoulders sagging, tears sliding down her face. She looked more defeated than tired, as though the world had drained her completely. Ethan hesitated, then stepped closer. "Are you okay?" he asked gently. That was how Clare Whitman entered his life. Clare was 23, fresh out of college, armed with degrees and glowing recommendations, yet every job application ended the same way: rejection. "We need more experience." No one cared about the hours she had poured into internships. She felt invisible. As she poured her frustration out, Ethan listened with unexpected kindness. Caleb, meanwhile, wandered into a cafe and came back with a quick sketch he had drawn, a smiling girl with the sun behind her. Without a word, he handed it to Clare. She laughed through her tears and held the paper like a treasure. Something shifted that moment. Ethan knew she wasn't ready for a teaching role at his center, but he offered her a temporary administrative job. Clare accepted instantly. She was broke, new in town, and desperate for a lifeline. Over the months, Ethan found himself drawn to her quiet resilience. He'd bring her croissants in the morning, coffee made just right, and she answered with warmth and admiration. Eventually, he asked her to dinner. She said yes without hesitation. In truth, she had fallen for him that very first day in the park. Their bond grew quickly. Within 6 months, they lived together. A year later, Ethan proposed. Even he was surprised at how easily his guarded heart trusted again. Clare had reignited a part of him he thought was long dead. Years passed. Caleb grew into a confident high school senior preparing for college. His bond with Clare was genuine. She never tried to replace his mother but became someone he deeply respected. Meanwhile, the learning center thrived. They opened a second location, and Clare managed it brilliantly. Though she had once dreamed of communications, she found fulfillment in helping children and running the center. But late nights became routine. Older students' classes stretched long into the evening, and that's when Clare met Ryan Hull, a 26-year-old English instructor with charm and energy to spare. At first, she admired his teaching style. Soon, admiration became attraction. She despised herself for it. Ethan had rescued her, given her everything, yet she couldn't stop thinking about Ryan. And Ryan noticed. His compliments lingered, his touches accidental, his questions far too sincere. One night, as they locked up, he kissed her. Clare didn't resist. She kissed him back. That was the beginning of the unraveling. Their affair wasn't constant, but each meeting deepened her betrayal. At home, she grew restless, impatient, cold. Ethan, drowning in the stress of expansion, seemed older, duller, always exhausted. She compared him to Ryan's youthful energy, and bitterness crept into her voice. Ethan noticed. The gentle wife he knew now snapped without reason. Whenever he asked what was wrong, she brushed him off. Doubt whispered in the back of his mind. Then one afternoon, waiting in his office, Ethan idly pulled up the security cameras from the center Clare managed. Classes should have been ending, but the main halls were empty. Switching feeds, his stomach dropped. There, in the back room, Clare and Ryan, together. Ethan froze, recording the footage with a trembling hand. When it was over, he buried his face in his palms, choking on a cold, suffocating rage. That night, He said nothing. He greeted Claire as usual, even let her kiss his cheek. But in his mind, the image looped endlessly. Lying awake, a plan formed. At first, it felt cruel. Then it felt necessary. He arranged a celebration, an intimate banquet to toast his newest business venture. He told Claire it was a surprise party. Quietly, he gave the staff a USB drive with instructions. Play the file at his signal. The evening arrived. Claire, radiant in a pale blue dress, laughed as she shared Caleb's latest college updates. She held Ethan's hand, oblivious. Ethan stood for his speech, raising a glass to trust, to love, to truth. Then the screens around the room flickered on. The footage played. Gasps filled the hall. Claire's face went white, then red, then wet with tears. She stumbled from the room in humiliation. The fallout was brutal. Their divorce became war. Claire lashed out, trying to sabotage Ethan's business, then begging, then threatening. Caleb severed ties completely, sickened by her betrayal. Ryan vanished without a word, blocking her, fleeing the city, abandoning her to ruin. In the end, Claire lived alone in a modest apartment, haunted by what she'd destroyed. She often replayed the memory of that park bench, Ethan's gentle voice asking if she was okay. In that moment, she had found love, safety, and a second chance. With one selfish decision, she had lost it all. There was no return.